we're clearly practitioners and not IT geniuses.
Oh, definitely, especially here on my side.
So welcome, Fleur. Welcome, Gaia. It's so lovely to have you on here with me.
Thank you. Good evening to everyone.
And we've got, half an hour or so just to have a chat about a few things that we tend to see pop up regularly in clinic. We're really fortunate that we've got the team that we have so that we can really hold space for our clients in a way that is addressing both the physical, mental and emotional aspects of health. And we're just having a chat about a few of the common themes that we see and where some of these patterns come from and what we can do about them, most importantly. So what were we talking about? We were having a chat about, why is it that we do what we do when we know what we know? Yeah, there's so many of us, we all do it in different ways, right? Often the problem is not a lack of information. A lot of us know we need to eat better or move more or sleep more or, go to bed earlier or whatever it might be. But for whatever reason, even though there's that voice there's another voice that's like, oh, just stay up, just have another Tim Tam. Oh, I can't be bothered taking my supplements, or, I can't be bothered cooking up a healthy meal. I would love a bit of your perspective on that, Gaia, and where that might stem from. Why do we do that? Why do humans do that?
Yeah. Fundamentally, we're afraid of change. A lot of us, even though we might say we love it as an idea, as a concept, but there is always kind of a latent fear there around change because it's unknown, and we generally don't like what we don't know and we can't control. So when we change, we open ourselves to possible scenarios and outcomes that we can't fully predict or control, and that can be one element. Everyone is unique and has, his or her own particular version of resistance that might come up. For example, the resistance to going to bed early.
The big one, hey?
Yeah, and I know, I yes, I still struggle with that myself. And after years of giving myself really, great excuses like I'm Italian, we all go to bed late, which is absolute rubbish. We do, but then it's not healthy anyway. It's a matter of really slowing down when we're doing the behavior and unpacking what goes on in that moment. So without going into my story, because it's not, but it's a common one. The bed is can be the last place in the day if we keep ourselves really busy, and that's it's an era of glorification of busy, and generally we are requested to be busy. It's so hard to keep all the balls in the air, and we generally often feel that we don't have a choice, or anyway we are moving at a very fast pace. We are keeping at bay some the shadows, the anxieties, the concerns, and so on, which only have a chance to come up when we finally lay down in bed and we turn the light off. Then we're really there, alone. And that's often when all the stuff comes out. So that could be a thing that that is hard actually to recognize, a certain fear that we will meet ourselves when we turn the light off. And depending on what our past is, that could also be the ultimate, the moment where we really can't escape loneliness. We really are there with ourselves. And if we have a history of trauma, abuse, and it's quite rare to find someone that has not experienced at least a level of trauma in childhood of different degrees and gravity. But that can be the place where we feel like we are really vulnerable again, and therefore not a place where we enjoy going towards. And it doesn't make any sense, because whether we go to bed at 8 o'clock, 10 or 12, we will go to bed eventually. So that moment will come, and yet unconsciously we resist it. We find another email to send, or we find plausible to clean the bathroom at 11 o'clock. And I mean, I've done that. So we are avoidant of pain by nature. This is how we were programmed to survive, by avoiding pain, which is a very adaptive thing to do if we're avoiding a physical danger, a truck coming at us or someone attacking us. But if it's a psychological danger, perceived as danger, psychological pain, the worst thing we can do in a way is avoid it. Keep the avoidance. So
there's a couple of questions there. One is this where addictions come from? And the other is, why is it so important that we don't avoid pain? Because so many, we tend to, as you said, be driven to avoid pain, but in doing so create more, right? So I'd love your reflections on that. Yeah, go for it, Flip.
That too. Do you also, when thinking about safety and sometimes people's inability to try and get across the line, if they don't know what safety is and those things have kept them safe, and they've got an upregulated nervous system, living in a very busy world, in order for people to actually even facilitate that and have the capacity within their periphery to eat that is that's such a premise of a fundamental thing that we need, because it feels like then it goes into the more maybe limiting belief part of a person, where they're like, oh, why can't I do it? Why am I not? And it's like, but if you don't have the capacity or the safety within your body going, how's that going to be easy for someone to do? How's it easy for someone to change their food or make a change in their life when that safety's not there? Those things are very meaningful in terms of safe. And is that something that we can work on, clinically, or kind of do in order to find safety and to make change? And then I think that's when addictions come in too, because the addiction is a form of control, or a way in which you can feel.
Yeah, so addiction often, so two very good points, for sure. So addiction often stems from trauma, from a way of, no one chooses to become an addict or an alcoholic or whatever. It doesn't matter in the end what we use. I mean, it does matter, some things are more detrimental than others. But the movement is away from pain, and it's a way to cope all the time. And then we find, when we are young or overwhelmed, or it's available, that works for the night or for the moment, and then most things are addictive. When we talk about addiction, alcohol is addictive, nicotine, coffee, and so on. And then we go back, and then the dependency sets in. So for sure, I have never seen anyone in addiction without trauma.
Totally.
Always.
We're so clever in how we're wired to avoid the pain, because once that neural pathway is set up, it's like we know that that's going to give us the relief, or that, and so it's like the wiring gets laid. And then if it is an addictive thing with nicotine or food, it's like we know we're going to get that hit of, like Helen and I would know within our realm of our field, we know that the dopamine comes through, and you get all these different chemical hits on top of that. So it's like solidifies the pathway.
For sure, for sure. And sometimes in a way that is, the only way is abstinence, when we're talking about alcohol, for example, if they cross that line.
But that can be that can also be super challenging for people too if they don't have the capacity or even have a place of safety. And then on top of that, I think that's when supplements can be really helpful, because if someone's in a depleted state and they don't have the energy within their field or within their body, or the cellular energy, shifting from that's going to be harder from an addictive point of view, and the chemical shifts that happen. And so it's so interesting, which is so great within our group container and many other people that I love to work with, is that we can kind of wrap around people to make change. It's not just like, hey, go see a naturopath, she's going to give you supplements. It's like there's so many parts of the person's healing like toolkit that comes into way.
For sure, and it's not one thing that gets people into addiction. It's not one single thing that will get them out. So it has to be a comprehensive approach for sure. And in the end, the body rules. The body is always in charge. So it's necessary to address the body for sure, and the mind.
And addressing the body as well can give that greater sense of stability and resilience, to be able to then go and look at some of the old wounding and start with support healing that, because that can be really terrifying thing to do, you know. And it's why I have so much respect for everybody who embarks on that path, because it does take courage to go and explore those shadows within us, right? And to do that, you need a certain level of stability. And that's where bringing in the physical support of the body can really help to make doing the emotional healing a lot more possible, right? And more effective too.
And for sure. I think it's like across the board, no one gets out. Like I always feel like that game of Monopoly, and it's like no one gets a get out of jail free card. Like all of us are so messy, like regardless of your like what you do in your life, the change process and unraveling your own personal trauma, your story, the things that have imprinted on your body, your honest cells, everything that you know to be true up to that point, that's painful and messy. And sometimes it looks like putting boundaries in with people, or seeing parts of yourself that haven't been particularly world. And it happens to all of us. And it's like, I love the idea of bringing back the human of not our shittiness, or that's the wrong word, and I know we should like the swearing part, but it's like we're like, and we're not perfect, and there's like into that, it's okay. And even like it doesn't have to be this big thing of perfection, because we are here to mistakes and learn, like and cross the line into figuring out how to unravel who we are.
Yeah, we just need more permission to be human, right? And less trying to pretend that we've got it all together all the time. Because life's a roller coaster, you know, and there's going to be times where you feel really coherent and like, yeah, I've got this and I'm feeling good. And there are going to be times where you're an absolute mess. And feel like your mess is everywhere, you know, and how am I even going to gather that back into myself to get started on the next step? And and then the overwhelm can come in, right?
Yeah, for sure. But if we have acquired the skills and we have known a way to be in the world, we have learned to self-soothe. We have good friends that can hold us and don't judge us. We have people that are like, what a family should be. I'm here to catch you, and I don't need you to be different right now. It's okay to be a man. Yes, and so on. That's safety. That's one level of safety, right? So for many, it was never safe to be not performing at peak level. So that's another thing that we
not be okay.
that we need to learn. That is that it's okay not to be the best, or it's okay to make, especially it's okay to make mistakes, especially that one. But if we were constantly punished for making mistakes, then we naturally will even avoid things. Like that could be another secondary gain of, not actually activate good behaviors in going to bed early, exercising, and so on, because then we might fail, and that could be, if we have experienced really negative consequences of failing in childhood, then it's safer not to even try. That can be another block there. Yeah.
So I love that you've brought in that topic of secondary benefits. Yeah. Or is that what you call them? Secondary benefits?
Secondary gains, yeah. Sometimes it doesn't
secondary gains,
because they go, well, I'm not having fun here. And I totally, in fact, I often try to find a better word, but I haven't found one. But it's all unconscious stuff. Of course, it doesn't mean you're having a good time by not losing weight or by not reading the stuff I sent you, like classic. Have you, week after week, have you read? No, forgot. No, and on we go. It might mean that, yes, the benefit there is that you don't take any risk. You stay blocked, you stay stationary and stuck, but also you don't get further hurt because you can't fail. Or I don't know, if you heal, then there might be an unconscious fear that people won't pay you attention anymore. If your way of getting attention is being sick, then would I still be the center of attention if I am well?
I feel like I get love this way, or if I get taken care of if I'm unwell. Yeah. It's a really, really powerful question to ask ourselves when we notice patterns or we're experiencing chronic conditions, right? Like because we often, just to reiterate what you're saying, it's like, I don't like this, I'm having a miserable time, I feel horrible, and yet why am I still doing it when I know better? It's like, okay, well, what is it that I'm actually getting out of this? What's the benefit of me being sick? And that can be a really hard question to answer, because no one wants to admit that. I'm actually benefiting from this, but it's powerful.
Very much so, because once we look at it, we can never go back. I mean, we can, but once we know,
we're kidding ourselves then.
Yeah, exactly. And most people wouldn't actually, and that's not good. They said the truth shall set you free, and it really does.
It'll piss you off, right?
Yes, often, yes. Not always, but often, yeah.
Not always, but often, yeah.
Yeah. And once we're done, with compassion, it's very important, right? So when we ask these questions, it's okay. I'm avoidant. I don't want to do it. There is so much resistance. I don't want to risk. I don't want to risk to fail. Or I tried so many times, nothing worked, and I don't want to risk to be crushed. My hopes to be crushed again if I fail, if this doesn't work. It's so human and so understandable. So it's one line, right, between compassion and self-indulgence, where
we need that compassionate curiosity to have a reality check, a compassionate reality check, and then bring in some compassionate action, right?
For sure, yeah. And
what is it that we can do to change?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, because theory without action is useless. Insights without action are useless, really, quickly. But if we have come to be this way, as in really fearing making a mistake, for example, or fear of failing, it's not random, it's not us. Clearly, it wasn't okay. If we have been told, that's fine, go and make as many mistakes as you like because I love you anyway, you can't go wrong.
How many of us are told that?
Exactly. Then we wouldn't be trapped in this stuckness about, oh God, shame. What if I fail in public and so on? So the compassion is that necessary to understand that we didn't choose to behave in this way while we remain unconscious. But once we are awareness, then we have responsibility, and then that is the choice.
Yeah, that's key. Hey, yeah.
And Gaia, do you both find that in like a clinical setting that there's a link between someone's onset of their illness or their what's happened to them and coinciding with the traumatic event, the psychological aspect of it? Do you notice
100%.
that?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes it's immediate and sometimes it's decades down the track, right? Because, you know, humans are incredibly dependent animals. You know, we're not like most mammals that once born are walking within minutes or hours or slithering off or, you know, whatever it might be. Not that mammals slither, but you get what I'm saying.
For sure.
Whereas we are just so incredibly dependent on our caregivers for the first few years of our lives and beyond, for that matter, that whether a threat is perceived or real, we will modify our behavior and our thoughts and our beliefs to make sure that we are looked after, that we are fed, that we are housed, that we are connected, because to be disconnected means death, right? Sure. And until those patterns are actually brought to light in adulthood generally, they're going to be playing in the background, and as Carl Jung says, we'll call it fate, right? But when we bring that to the light, then we can go, oh, actually, that pattern is not serving me anymore. What's a different way? What do I actually need, or can current me provide the safety that little me was needing at the time, kind of thing.
And I don't know whether this is something that you use, Guy, but to actually, if we have stuff going on in our body, trying to link it, or even watching the parts of ourselves that are present at those moments and where that might have come from. And then I guess that's why sometimes it's so naturopathy, but you sit and you ask a person about their health history, there's like, you can see it like a puzzle all come together, and it's not that a person's ended up with an autoimmune. It's like, oh, these really huge things have happened to you. And when we put their like puzzle together of their life, it's like you can see how everything has tied into what is happening for them in that present moment. And do you think that that's a nice invitation for people that are potentially watching this? Like, what can they do if they're noticing that there's stuff going on in their body? Like, what is a way, or like what's a door that they could start questioning, or what are things that they could add into their toolkit from your perspective in that way?
I'm not sure what you mean when they notice something going on in their bodies.
If they've got say a health condition, when did it start, or when did you first notice it, or what was happening for you around that time? Like, is there ways in which people can explore this more for themselves? Or is it held in a clinical setting type space?
I'd say so, because I mean, there is no harm in going back and trying to remember more, because often it's hard, because often with trauma there are no memories. There generally like, I remember nothing. That's what often people say, especially the first 10 years. But they might not generally know the effect of, I mean, I guess that's why we're there, right? Because it's, they might not get the answers that they need.
I think it's so important to have someone hold that container and guides you through that process for a number of reasons. Like I said before, can be terrifying, and other times just scary, but you know, it can be really quite terrifying to go there, but that is where the gold is, right? But you need to, part of healing as well is being in the presence of an empathic other as you're going through that process.
Yeah.
And also, we only know our own experience.
Yeah.
So we can't see our blind spots either, because what we've known has been our normal, and we don't necessarily know any different until someone might reflect something back to us or acknowledge some part of ourselves that has never been acknowledged before. And then it's like, whoa, okay. There's so many pieces in my own journey that I would never, ever be aware of if I didn't have incredible therapists around me to facilitate that process, because I didn't know any better, you know?
Yeah.
Or
Despite all my self-inquiry, didn't know better.
Yes. Yeah, great point. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I basically think we all need a therapist. You know, we used to have villages, right? We used to have villages and elders, and
for sure.
Yeah, villages and elders, and we spent a lot more time with a lot more people of different ages and stages of life. Whereas now we tend to be more in, you know, bundled groups, if that, and a lot of us are on our own as well, you know. And so especially the last 2 years has been so much isolation. Who do you go to for those reflections? And I just think everybody trying to work it out for themselves as though it's the first time it's ever been experienced is madness, you know? Like, why there's been gazillions of humans who have been through the same themed experiences before, and we can support each other through that instead of try and figure it out by ourselves every time.
Yeah, for sure. And Clara, back to your point, you know, I think when you start with a therapist, then what tends to happen, because you're not meant to be in therapy for your lifetime, right? But after a while, people start to internalize the voice of the therapist, and then they can have the insight, and then they have the skills and the tools and the stability to go, oh, and that happened, and that's why I do that, you know, and that's when it's on, and then eventually they leave, because I think we're never done. Like again, Jung said, report, you know, he said it takes a lifetime to become who we really are. So we'll be on this path forever, but it will get so much easier and easier, and then we can work alone, truly, and the truth is be there, you know, so easily processed. But in the beginning, it can be almost impossible because of what Helen said before, and we also get to know ourselves through the others. It's in a way, there is only so much we can do alone, and this is a myth of the liberal doctrines, right? You're alone. If you need others, you're a failure. Well, like you were saying, by biology, we need each other. We are so dependent. Literally, dependent mammal, of the species, and yet they've been drilling into us since this political model has been on, that we need to, you know, go get it alone, and it's a race, it's a competition, and through teamwork and collaboration, you're a loser. So it's particularly helpful also to rewire that, and it teaches people to a very important part of self-regulation, that we co-regulate through art. So there is only so much we can do. And I think when there has been a lot of trauma, first we co-regulate with a safe adult that can teach us find safety in our own body, and then we can work alone, for sure.
Can you just explain for those who might not know, and Tonya has commented, you don't know what you don't know, which is exactly right. And Maria also had mentioned that tapping, you know, EFT has really helped her in her process of healing, being a lifesaver. Yes, I wanted to ask you to explain what were you just talking about then. Reading comments is so distracting. Remind me what you just said.
That we co-regulate through others.
Yes, that's right, co-regulation. So can you, for people who might not know, what is co-regulation?
It's so our nervous system is connected to the nervous system of another person, of others. And we have mirror neurons, which means that that's why we find ourselves often sitting across a person and then sitting in the same position or moving our hands in the same way, because we mirror each other. And we do that because this is how empathy works. So I'm feeling with you. I'm in the same thing as you are, and I feel with you. And that, it's actually, we know by looking at brains with MRIs machines that the nervous system, when there is that attunement and that connection, shifts from fight or flight into parasympathetic mode.
Rest and digest.
Yes. Rest, digest, grow,
repair, heal,
learn. That's why kids that are traumatized can't learn at school, because they are in fight or in the collapsed state of dissociation.
And that can be a big part of that ADHD picture, right?
Yes. Yes. For slightly, Again, if I do believe Gabor Mate theory, that is a trauma result. So yes, sure. Yeah. And often, the kids were in dissociative states at school, and it didn't look like ADD or ADHD, because especially the girls don't move very much. But I was one of them. I was forever standing at the window going, birds, and not taking anything in, because I learned early on to completely leave the room, and leave the space. So nothing was going in, and that was ADD, but just I didn't know I had it until a few years ago. Also a result of trauma. It's an adaptation. We cope. This is the way we cope. Yeah. But in terms of co-regulation, yes, we can meditate. Super important, because that's connection to our own self. But there's only so much we can do alone. So our nervous system greatly benefits. The nervous system of a mammal, for example, touch, that pressure will switch the parasympathetic nervous system on. And then again, we can exhale, finally, let go, relax, learn, laugh. Yeah.
And if people don't have someone with them right now, like that kind of touch as well, we can do for ourselves. Obviously, it's it's better, or it's not even better, it's just different if somebody else can be there to provide that for us as well. But when we're feeling really out of our body, doing some self-touch where you're really feeling your muscles, well, you might start off with your skin, feeling your skin, and then feeling a bit deeper your muscles, and then feeling deeper your bones, and in your legs, can you feel your thigh muscles and your thigh bones? And that can be, taking a moment to do that can be such a great way to ground back into your body as well.
Or if possible, get a massage.
Yes.
I've got Guy, though, with all the tools, like these tools that you're talking about, how they can be helpful for a person, but when they're in the middle of the in-between realm of regulating and learning how to regulate their nervous system, once that nervous system trigger happens and a person's disassociated or they've completely gone out, it can be very hard to come back, right? Until they've almost gone through the experience. The nervous system's kind of calmed down in its own way. So can that be a hard thing for people too, when you're in a clinical setting, trying to get them to find what their personal regulating tool can be? Because if someone's upregulated and their nervous system's completely, or they've gone into their fight or flight, that touch feeling, how it sometimes won't work for a person. Can that happen for people too? Because I know people can find that frustrating when they're not able to bring themselves back in.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of what happens at night is the consequence of not having done certain work in the day. I'm really convinced of that. So starting, like, having a better night really starts in the mornings with what you do and don't avoid. But in that moment, you know, at 4 a.m., it's whatever can to them, whatever is soothing. For example, for me, and that's such a relative thing, for me, I'm always cold. So it's a hot water bottle. It's so soothing. It's something that I can have. Sorry.
That's what breathing tools for sure. Like a hot water bottle's definitely something that feels really good.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
body.
A herbal tea or looking at the sky. I find there is always something that brings a, you know, because it's so vast. It's almost everyone reacts like that. Looking at the sky, looking up, is a bit like looking at the ocean. And we're not always near the ocean, but we can always find a window, hopefully, and look outside. And just staring at the sky can actually be helpful to ground. A herbal tea. I mean, even calling lifeline. You know, it depends if we're talking flashbacks.
What?
Serious.
Yes, on what spectrum? Yeah.
But I mean, the treatment for the protocol for flashback is the same. We need to ground. We need to remember that we're safe. Self-talk as well is important. So in case of flashbacks or nightmares that are related to a past event that was traumatic, writing a little script, it works. Saying, okay, it's the 18th of August 2022. I am safe. My daughter's doctor. I have a phone. Yeah.
I am here and I am alive.
Yes.
It can be so good too, because it's like an acknowledgement in the system of like, even though I feel like that, like I'm here, and it's acknowledging to yourself and to your body that you're actually present with that space.
Yeah. So even and giving, honoring the body as well as saying, okay, my heart is racing and I'm sweaty and I feel like I'm choking. In reality, I do know that I'm breathing, the air is coming in and out, and I am safe. Even though I don't feel safe, I am safe. And looking around for confirmation that I am safe, because like you mentioned before, often this feeling of being unsafe is in the body. So in this case, we have to actually look outside of the body for signs of safety. The door is locked. I've got a phone. If something happens, if I yell, people will hear me. Because in that moment, often we feel like children. Like often when we're in a panic, we're in child mode, vulnerable child mode. And to remember that as adults, we have the capacity to defend ourselves, because often the trauma happened when we couldn't defend ourselves.
Yeah,
and to
that's so important. That's a really important point there, is that, when we are in those highly activated states, it is often from that child conditioned nervous system response. And yes, then we may not have been in control and we may not have had choice, but now as adults, what can I manage and control in my environment? What choices do I have? Where am I in space? Am I, safe and housed and clothed and fed, and all of those things.
And with options, often with options. I can call 000, I can call a friend, I can, the options we didn't have are there for us now. And also, I think it's useful to know that the brain during the night the frontal lobe goes offline to rest. So our amygdala and midbrain are a lot more active. So the site of emotions and impulses, like a primal. So of course.
So just for people listening, that frontal lobe, that is where we have our reason and rational thought, right? So normally if our amygdala, which is like the fear base of the brain, normally if that kicks into gear, then our frontal lobe can come in and go, well, actually, let's have a look at this situation and see what's really going on. But so what you're saying is being at nighttime is a bit like an amygdala hijack, because the frontal lobe's gone to sleep and the amygdala is like bing, and then you're like, oh, yeah.
Exactly. And that's why things always feel and look better at midday than they do at 3 a.m.
That's so interesting. See, I didn't realize that. Yeah.
This is on, and I go, yeah, but I got this option and that one. But at night, so I learned to take my thoughts of 3 a.m. not seriously, as I also know how to not take myself seriously in a way after a really poor night of sleep, you know?
Yes. Yes.
Because
so
I
important.
have to feel that my mind, because, you know, it does happen sometimes. I have poor sleep, and then I'm driving thinking, and she said that, and that was 6 years ago, and I go, yeah, that's a circle that goes on from the amygdala.
That's another great point. Yeah, noticing, you know, okay, yeah, that's right, I had a really crappy sleep last night. Oh yeah, that's right, I haven't eaten yet today. Oh yeah, that's right, I've had a tough morning. Okay, I'm not going to take all of these thoughts so seriously today. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go, okay, they're there. I'm not necessarily going to listen to them or believe them, you know.
Exactly. Yeah. I will revisit tomorrow once I'm rested, and often we find that we can put them in a better perspective. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
awesome.
Yeah.
That could be a nice little place to wrap up even as well. Having some tips and tools there and the importance of having a good night's sleep too. So yeah, just remembering those things around co-regulating with someone else, little, you know, the touch experience you can do yourself to help get back in your body. Your breath is a really important way, just slowing that down as well, right? Doing box breathing, like inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4, and repeat that even just 3 to 5 times can totally shift your physiology out of that fight or flight response into some more peaceful rest and digest. Yeah, so
absolutely. Yep. Yeah.
Thank you so much, ladies, for joining us. Joining me tonight. Any final comments that you want to share before we wrap up?
No.
Good?
Yeah.
Beautiful. All right. Well, if you guys watching want to find Fleur and Gaia as well, they're on the wellembodied.com.au website, so check them out. And yeah, I'm just so grateful to have you both in our little family and creating this container for everyone and ourselves as well.
It's always good to connect. Yeah, always good to, a pleasure to meet you, Flo.
Yeah, you too, Gaia.
And I'm looking forward, I reckon actually everybody who's listening, if tonight has stimulated any questions for you and brought anything up like, oh, I'd like to know more about that, please pop that in the comments, because then we can jump on and have a chat about these specific topics. Like Ella is writing now, she would love a follow-up live on somatic work and hypnotherapy. So, you know, we can jump back on and have chats about whatever different topics. So please pop them in the comments, and yeah, we'll see you again another time.
Perfect. Okay.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great sleep.
Have a good night. Yes.
See you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Okay. So if you check my account now, Gaia. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Can you request to join? Hi everybody, we're just gonna get our team on. We've got
Oh, why am I so far down? Okay.
Welcome, Fleur.
Thank you.
And now our beautiful counsellor, Gaia, is about to jump on too. So we will just see. See if I can invite you. You have no requests. So at the bottom of the Instagram, Gaia, there might be a little video with a plus sign on it. Bear with us, everyone. We won't be too long. In the meantime, while you're all jumping on, if you've got any questions, I would, love to hear them. We've got 2 naturopaths and a counsellor on tonight. Here we go, guys, jumping on. And if you have any questions in regards to emotional aspects of health, or what it is that is impacting you, so we just need you to I'll do that for you. There you go. All right, we're here. We've made it. We're clearly practitioners and not IT geniuses.
Definitely, especially here on my side.
So welcome, Fleur. Welcome, Gaia. It's so lovely to have you on here with me.